Okay, so we're doing the VR review in the non-VR because the recordings come out all stretched, because we're looking through either the left eye or the right eye. I'm not sure which one, but it's not good to look at, let's be honest. So let's get started. Your computer that you want, well, the computer that you use, not the computer that you want, will need to be fairly beefy, because we're generating two viewpoints, one from the left eye and one from the right eye, so it needs to be pretty powerful in order to do it. And I still haven't downloaded Syria for this. Alright, well, let's just cancel that for now. So my DCS open beta is the one that I've ticked the box. And by tick the box, I mean you go into VR and you tick the box, enable virtual reality headset, which this one shouldn't be ticked. Some of these settings you might need to muck around with. There's better settings out there, like better videos. I'm not sure exactly what they do. You can confine the cursor to the game window, which I don't. To me, it doesn't really make... Well, actually, yeah, it would make a difference, because your cursor can go outside the game window. Now, when you start DCS, also make sure you hit Alt and Enter to put it in full screen mode. Otherwise, if you're clicking your radio controls up in the top right or whatever, and you accidentally click outside of the window that's on the desktop, because it still uses the mouse on the desktop, then none of your controllers will work. You'll be flying dead in the air, because as soon as it loses focus, it's got no input. So make sure you hit Alt and Enter on the keyboard to maximize the window, so that your mouse cannot leave the window that's on the desktop. Now, if you're like me and you've downloaded all of the free stuff during that free month, so you've got, when you load DCS, it comes up and it says you don't have the license or enter the key for yada 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 yada, and you've got a massive pile that you have to keep hitting OK through, it will not start DCS in the VR. So and it will time out, so just be aware of that DCS will work. You have to tick the box to make sure that the virtual reality headset is enabled. You need to make sure that DCS is up and running on the desktop, and then you'll be able to see it in the VR. Otherwise, you'll be stuck. I used the Oculus CV1, which was the first iteration of the VR. Amazing, even for the first iteration, but still, it will not load. You'll be sitting there in your home screen or whatever, and you'll click on either in the little menu bar or wherever, because it does give you options to, like a little desktop setup to click on whatever to get it running. It will not work. So if you're sitting in VR and you go, oh, you know what, I want to have a crack at DCS, so then you click on the button to start DCS on the desktop outside of the VR headset, DCS will load. It'll ask you to enter all your keys and everything, and you'll be sitting there going, what's going on? Because you are confined to that little thing. You're not going to see what's going on, and then eventually it will time out. So make sure that you hit OK and everything to load up DCS, make it full screen using Alt Enter, and then you're ready to go. Now, I previously did a video in VR. The problem with that is, for some reason, it didn't record the voice through the VR headset, which was, I don't know why it didn't, but I did demonstrate what it's like to do the river run in the F-18. Yeah, very interesting. Now, it is a little bit blurry. People do say you need to change these settings or whatnot, and you do need a fairly beefy machine to keep up with it in order to be able to read. Now, I put my glasses on while I was inside the cockpit. You can read a lot of stuff. It is doable on my machine, which is like a Ryzen. I've got a Duke 1070 Ti or something like that. And I think I've got about 16 gigs of RAM, I think only. Yeah, I think I've only got 16 gigs of RAM. it is readable. Not everything is readable. Now, the one gripe I have, I've demonstrated in the previous video, and I do apologize it didn't work because it didn't record my voice, but you can see what the gripes I have with it, which is, in order to click all the buttons and tick all the buttons, you need to be able to use the touch controller for the Oculus Rift. I'm sure whatever controller you're using with your VR, if you're looking to get VR, you will need to take your hands off the throttle and stick in order to be able to press the right buttons. Because you're confined to your little VR window, you need to know where your keyboard is if you're going to use keyboard. Like, it's not the easiest thing to do, and it could be doable. You might need to be able to, I guess, like learn, I don't know, practice. But for me, it's not something I can do. Now, when you're using the VR, it is an experience. Things like flying in formation is a lot easier. Air-to-air refueling is a lot easier. You can actually see the depth in like paths and stuff. Like when you go on the Syria map, or not Syria map, what was it? The other one we have that's Middle Eastern. You know what I mean. Hang on, let's just have a look. When you're in Syria, Persian Gulf, you can actually see the depth in the rivers. Like, you can see, and I mean these are shallow rivers, but from 1,000 feet you can see the depth in it. When you're flying the A10, the little paint build-up that you can see on the right side of how it catches the light and the bump mapping, that looks like you can touch it. Everything in the cockpit looks like you can touch it. You can see your distance from the ground. When you're flying the P-51, it's incredible. And none of it is like that fake two-dimensional, lifted out stuff. It is proper full 3D. You feel like you're there. It's all solid. It's incredible. The gripes I have with it, though, is also the DPI is quite low. So when you say you have an aircraft that's just in visual reference, when you're on a 1920 by 1080, you will not see it in VR because the DPI is so low. So that's one of the issues I have, and I don't think there's any VR out at the moment that will actually improve that. So because it's still in its infancy, but for its infancy, it's incredible. It's definitely an experience you want to try. For me personally, I like to be able to get to my buttons and stuff quickly. So when I'm going to be flying properly, and I do that in air quotes because I don't fly properly, but when I fly and I want to be able to do everything, I'm going to do it with Track IR, because I need to be able to use the CDU and the UFC, and all of that stuff is mapped to my keyboard. All my eject buttons and everything is mapped to my keyboard. As much as you can map to the HOTAS or whatever HOTAS you've got, it's not enough. Especially with the A10C and the amount of things that you can do with that aircraft. Say for instance, you're in the middle of a combat thing, and one of your wings gets taken out. You want to turn off your fuel pumps or do a fuel transfer or something. You can't map all those buttons. You will need, when you're doing, at least with the Oculus Rift and you're doing VR, you will need the left hand stick close by. The reason is that resets your view, because your view might go out of whack, or even when you first load it up, your view's out of whack. So you will need your left hand stick. I usually leave it on my lap, on my left leg, and that will also give you the option to open up the menu, because it's not always easy to hit the escape button. Now, there's going to be two modes of thought to this. Me personally, I love the experience. I think it's fantastic. There will not be, I'm never going to not sit down and go, you know what, I want to go for a real nice fly and put the VR on. I'm still going to do that, but if I want to play a mission and do it properly, I'm still going to be using the Track IR because I want access to all my buttons. Like I said, it's in infancy. Eagle Dynamics have done a fantastic job, I think, of integrating this and making it usable. Now, you can't actually use the mouse clicks. If you could use the mouse clicks in the cockpit, then I would be on that. I would be learning this as best I can, because at least if you can click on the cockpit buttons with the mouse, because using the stick, sometimes you have to look to the console back and to the left, which in VR, because you've got this big stonking thing in front of you, it's not the easiest thing to do. And sometimes, just because of the distance from your eyes to the glass, you can't get a full good look of the panels behind you. Whereas if you actually build one, which is what I'm hoping to do, I've got my CNC machine ready to build these panels, but it's going to take me a lifetime to do the A10. You can actually put your hand, behind you. You can just kind of turn a little bit and turn your knobs. However, it's extremely difficult with the touch controllers with the Oculus Rift, and I don't know how it will work with other ones because I've only got the Oculus to go on. So you have to hold down the grab button. There's a little button you can use your middle finger to grab with, and then there's a trigger you use your index finger for. Now, if your hand is upright, so with your palm facing the ground, or around about within a few degrees of difference, it counts as a left mouse button click. If it's upside down, so the palm facing the sky, then it turns into a right mouse button click. So you also need to remember, the panels, which way is what and what's going to flip your switch, because when you do a cold start, say for instance with the A10, and you've got your IFF switch, is it IFF? No, your kick U switch, whatever it is. It's the third one in down the bottom next to, you've got like the kick U, something else I can't remember because it's not in front of me. You have the test, like when you start doing your bit test, you need to put that switch into the middle position to run the test to verify everything before you switch it on. So sometimes that can cause a problem with me remembering what buttons to click in order to get it into the test position. Other than that, I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's definitely an experience you want to try. And like I said, there's going to be 2 modes of thought. When they perfect it, I will enjoy it. Until then, I'm just going to do it for fun flights. If I really just want to, take off from point A and land at point B, maybe do a little bit of a lap or something, try out a few things. Because when it comes to missions and stuff, because the DPI is so low, getting rounds on target for the A10 can be quite difficult. If you're good at using the radar and stuff for dogfighting, maybe it might work. I've noticed as well, because of the depth perception, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio with your head moving, I reckon tracking targets, like if you've got a bandit who's gone past you, just because of the way your head moves compared to the Track IR, you're not going to lose your position as easy. With the Track IR, sometimes you get a little bit confused. It doesn't quite fit with the way your head's moving in relation to your shoulders. But also, I don't know, it's just better. It seems easier to do it. I mean, VR seems to be quite fantastic for a lot of stuff. Like I said, air-to-air refueling and flying in formation is so much easier. I'm still not as skilled, so it takes me a little bit longer, but you can really line up with the basket in front of you. I haven't tried doing the boom refueling yet, because I couldn't find the boom refueling when I was making the previous video. And I'm actually, you're not really going to see much anyway, because VR is a completely different beast, because you've got the depth perception, which changes everything. So when I'm recording, all you're going to get is like a real stretched thing, which I'm not going to do. If I'm doing serious stuff and I want to press all my buttons and stuff, I'm still going to use Track IR, but for fun, I'm going to use the VR. Some people have said what they're going to do is set something up in front of them, because you literally feel like you can touch the things in front of you. They have a depth and a location. They move in this strange virtual 3D space you're in, so you could actually move your hand and click where you estimate this thing would be, the particular button. So what they're doing is they're getting themselves a pen and they're marking a block of wood or something in front of them where they think they would touch this thing, which is fair enough, but to me I don't know if that's going to actually work because of slight movements, slight adjustments, and having, you know, over time the VR thing kind of go out of sync. But the accuracy on the VR is breathtaking. You know, if you nod, it, you know, turn your head ever so slightly, like within smaller than millimeters, it notices and it makes adjustments. It's absolutely incredible. It's one of the most fun things I've ever played. Now, doing the river run in the F-18, if it had recorded what I was saying, you would hear me ramble between going, ugh, because the F-18 really turns. This thing has a roll rate that's just ridiculous. But it makes you feel sick because it's so realistic. The only thing is your inner ear's not moving. It's not motion sickness. It's something different that we get in the simulators at work. So one of the instructors was telling me it's not motion sickness, it's something else, because I was describing to him what it's like with the VR. See, we just have like a A320 or something set up, and you look through the front of the screen. But because the only movement you've got apart from the A320 setup is only in the screen in front of you, for the first few goes, the first few times you sit in the simulator, it actually makes you feel sick. But you eventually get used to it. Now, for a first-time user on VR, I wouldn't recommend doing the F-18 river run unless you've brought a bucket. But it is absolutely incredible, the feeling of sitting in the A10 or the F-18 and rolling and looking across your wing, or even the P-51, anything. It's amazing. It really is fantastic, and even the glare from the sun you can see rolling around the cockpit as if the cockpit glass is a canopy and really there around you like an arch. It's beautiful. It is an absolutely beautiful experience, and seeing even the bump mapping or whatever it is they use these days on the little bits of, you know, built up paint or it's an experience. It is beautiful. It's amazing. For me personally, until we can kind of get it working, and by get it working I mean easy to press the buttons and stuff, like the turning switches when you use the Oculus thing. I don't know if I mentioned it, but you hold the grab button and the index, you leave the index thing or whatever and it points, and then you use a little joystick on there and hold left and right to turn the knobs. You have to take your hand off the HOTAS in order to do that, and I mean, you do have to take your hand off of something to press the keyboard. However, you're picking up another piece of equipment. I mean, sure, you could get used to it, but it doesn't feel right for me, picking up another piece of equipment to press buttons. Maybe I'm being, I don't know, I just like the most realistic experience that I can get, I guess. And you can't use the mouse in the cockpit. I don't know if anyone else can use the mouse in the cockpit, but I can only use it for radio controls. Now, the reason I say this is because in order for the mouse to work, we're not dealing with a two-dimensional cockpit here, or a three-dimensional cockpit used, like, projected onto a two-dimensional screen like it is when you play DCS with Track IR or on its own. Because your head moves, it's like it needs to draw a line from your eyesight to what you're clicking on, and if they do that, I will be there. But there's the clickable cockpits it's non-existent. Clickable cockpits only work with the touch controllers. Now, yeah, it still is an amazing experience. I can't describe it. It's something you really have to try, and I appreciate all the effort that Eagle Dynamics puts in, because I mean it really is amazing. So I thank them all. I mean, it's taken me more than 8 years, I think, to get to the level where I'm at now, which is still not the best. I mean, I fly this every opportunity I can. But, you know, you have breaks for a month here or there, or, you know, you only get a couple of hours in here or there. So, I don't know. I reckon my hours are really high, but... and I thank them for giving me all that fun for so many years. And did you guys hear that the Apache's coming out? Now, that's going to be absolutely incredible. So, to end this, I would say that I can understand why people will only want to do VR and improve the VR, and I appreciate that, and they should go for it, because this is extremely promising. It looks incredible. It definitely gives you the not motion sickness that you get, because it's so real, and I love it. It's fantastic. But the gripes I have is the ease of use for cockpit buttons. Because the VR's over your eyes, you can't see anything else. I want to be able to click my keyboard or whatever, and I don't really like picking up another piece of equipment to press buttons. That being said, I am not going to stop doing the VR because it's such a great experience, but I'm not going to take it into anything like a serious battle or online or anything like that. It's really just purely going to be to enjoy the experience. So I'm going to go the way of tactile, but I still want to do the VR because the VR is so incredible. And by tactile, I mean I want to build a cockpit. I've already committed to that, and I've been committed for... I mean, if you look back at my first videos, that was the beginning of my cockpit, and then it went on the sidelines for a while. Life happens. You've got things to do. You kind of forget things. You don't have enough money this week or whatever, or you get brain freeze, or you just get lazy, you know. But I've got my MFDs, I've got my little CNC thing. I'm learning slowly how to build stuff, like the panels and things. I've got my electronics all ready to go, so I'm very committed to building the A10 cockpit. Now, the VR though, I don't know if the VR is going to work with the... I mean, maybe 10 years time. I'm not going to be able to give you a review on that until about 10 years time, and until then, you know, maybe we've got even better methods of doing this. So excuse me. It's, if you're thinking of buying the VR, just keep that in mind. It is an incredible experience, but when it comes to pressing the buttons and stuff, it's quite difficult. It's not like you're just going to easily turn knobs and stuff like that. And we're in a full-fledged simulator here, so it's not the... It is something that's kind of required. You kind of need to flip those switches quickly. You kind of need to be able to turn those knobs. You need to be able to read them. With my glasses on, if you're going to get VR and you wear glasses, get small glasses so they fit nicely in the VR. Mine get stuck in the VR, and then they start jabbing my nose, and you know, because you've got this thing strapped on, but then the corners of the VR are shorter than the width of my glasses, so it pushes into my head, and it's not very nice. You're going to get motion or whatever sickness that is, where your inner ear's not moving, but all your other cues are telling you that you're moving. It's the other way around. Motion sickness is like for the IFR guys or whatever, where they're looking at the instruments, but you're actually moving. Like, you know, you're looking at your phone in the car. It's the reverse of that. It's the other way around. All the cues you're getting is that you're moving, but you're not. So your inner ear is saying, "Hey mate, you're stationary. What's going on?" Seeing enemies at a distance because of the low DPI. Take these into consideration, but if you've got a mate that's got VR, you've got to try it. It's beautiful. It can be the most serene thing. You know, seeing that, like, even trees, you know, you can see that you're 100 feet off the ground. When you're coming into land, you have some kind of perception of how far away from the ground you are. It's beautiful. It's delightful. So I want to thank ED. Merry Christmas, everyone. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy your time with your family. Yeah. Thanks for watching.